Sup? Welcome to part 16 of Expedition 33 with a therapist. My cat would like to say hello to you. He's an expeditioner too. Kitty man, what do you want to say to the people? Hey, if you want to make this cat the happiest cat, you want to make him purr, you put a thumbs up on this video. You subscribe to the channel. You leave a comment. That gets my boy going. He gets purring. Isn't that right? So if you don't do it for me, do it for this guy. Look at his face. Look at his face. Are you the best, kitty? Do you appreciate all the YouTube people? Oh yeah, if you spoil, you post spoilers in the chat. What happens? This adorable little cat will come scratch your face in the middle of the night. By the way, if you have to start your comment with, this isn't a spoiler, but, or maybe this is a spoiler, but, or I'm not trying to spoil, but, knock it off. Thank you. All right, let's play the game. Verso.
Perfect.
If I switch to my L, does Verso run with me? Oh, he does. Such a great amount of detail everywhere. Hey, what's up?
Let's spill some ink.
Target marked.
Let's dance.
Oh, I went too early on the third one.
Incoming. My turn. Just try it.
This will hurt.
Verso, where's the treasure?
I never said there was treasure.
Wait a minute.
Nice.
You do not have a key that would fit. Well, hell, let's go find that key then. That looks interesting.
spill some ink.
My turn. Here we go. Careful now. My turn. Nice.
I'm intrigued by this whole key thing. If I was a key hiding in the rubble, where would I be? I'm gonna be like that guy who was searching in the town dump for his hard drive with 8,000 Bitcoin on it.
Okay. On me.
Bring it on. Watch out, Michael. Ready to strike.
Ready to parry.
Maximum damage.
Maximum damage. Go.
Finesse and grace.
Ludicrous speed. Go.
We're a pretty good team.
Oh boy. Verso.
Verso? Verso? Putain. Where did he go?
There you go, Mael. Keep going forward.
Verso, where did you go? I need to find Lune and Ciel, quickly.
Hi, I'm still here. Don't worry, Verso runs off all the time. He's always ditching me and Minoko. He'll be back. Interesting, so we get a little bit of reassurance from the little dude. I want to know where this key is. I can't imagine that this key is going to be that far away. I'm going to search real quick. Oh my God, DrMick, are you really running all the way back to the start? Bet your sweet ass I am. Surprised Mael didn't have some questions about that though. Like, where does he run off to? What does it usually mean when he leaves? The lack of curiosity in the party is a wee frustrating for your boy.
Nice.
Do I get the little dude to fight with me, or is it just me?
Okay.
Hey, they finally did a new move. Now you got me looking for this key. These swords. I also like that there's variety in the swords. They're not all the same. Hey, that looks like it could be a key, maybe.
Ready to parry.
God damn.
Let's dance. Perfect.
Auto rush. Apply rush for 3 turns on the battle start. Oh, interesting. I think Mael just assumed Noko does not know either, so no point in asking those questions. That is the kind of assumption that blocks people from healthy, thriving communication. There is no utility in making that assumption unless you just really don't care about the answer to those questions. So, I mean, if Mael would say she doesn't care where Verso went, fine. But if you want to know, the worst thing somebody can say to you if you ask them a question is, I don't know, but give them the chance to tell you they don't know. There's absolutely no reason for Mael to make the assumption that Noko has no idea. Like that's doing way too much in the engagement and is gonna stymie her from getting information that she could possibly get. But if you are confronted with a novel experience of a person and there's somebody else around who has experienced that before, there is absolutely no harm in engaging that person with curiosity. And again, if they say, I don't want to answer that question, fine. Or if they say they don't know, that's fine.
Great.
So, I like how we always run all the way back to the start of the map to fight. Whoa, look at all this gooiness. Look at all this gooiness. Statues and shit cut in half. God damn.
Think I'm close.
Look at that building that's still intact while everything else is not, with an ominous flag that you can save your progress at. Maybe that's the mansion. Uh-oh, over there. That must be the place.
This manor's intact. Why does it feel so familiar? I know this place.
I want this key. That's what I want. I mean, the big building is fine, but I want the key to that cell, and it's gonna drive me absolutely nuts until I find it. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Oh, you can't run around in the cornfield. Oh, there's a maze. Hey, ooh, look at that. Maybe the key's in the maze. It's not a maze. Lame.
Nice.
This is a cool statue. Big old lion statue. Wonder if this is where Renoir lives. Ooh. What a bathroom.
Nice.
Renoir, a music record that can be used at camp. Look at that. Wow. Renoir bathes in the lap of luxury. Look at this. King of the castle, king of the castle, king of the castle.
But how? With someone who refuses to talk. We don't even share the bonds of grief anymore. She walks her path, and I walk mine. I don't exist to her. None of us do. She's left us all behind to drown. by ourselves so that she can drown alone.
Look, he might be a bit of a douche, but I could listen to that dude talk all day. I mean, I don't know. He's got his reasons for doing what he does. We'll find those out, I'm sure. Oh, hi, Mark.
I knew you'd open the door for her.
Oh, boy.
Really, Verso? This was your plan? How many times must you hurt our family?
No, you don't get to lecture me on family.
Why do you refuse to see I am doing this for us? Yet you insist on rushing toward death. You're trying to stop the wrong cycle.
You're doing this for yourself.
Of course. It's easier for you to think that, isn't it? Easier to betray us if I'm the villain.
So move. I'm gonna fucking kill him.
No, you're not.
You haven't told her the truth. Have you, son?
Sorry we're late. We were busy doing a bit of reading. Were you planning on sharing that this man, the man who murdered our team, is your father?
Okay. Story trope aside of that's my dad. I know what I'm about to say. There's probably going to be a group of people that are like, that disagree with me, and there's going to be a group of people that agree with me, and that's fine. I don't think Renoir being Verso's dad at this point in time, from what we know, is relevant. Like, who cares? and I'm going to be annoying about this, but the entire problem with this exchange is that none of this was figured out ahead of time. I know I keep hammering this whole thing about you should ask questions and get your information early. I understand that it's a video game that has to progress the story in a certain way. I don't give a shit about that. Do not comment about that. All of this stuff, if this was a real life situation, all of this stuff could have been avoided had one of those nights at camp when we're sitting there looking at the stars and joking about chucking rocks in the lake. We could have had a real conversation about all of this. And this is a really good, albeit extreme example of how FUBAR stuff can get when you don't communicate. Communication is the lifeblood of human synergy. More than half my job is facilitating more healthy communication with people, and that usually means direct, curious, informed, all of these things. So the fact that Renoir is Verso's dad is something that gets cleared up with as easy of a question of, yo, Renoir, what is the nature of your relationship to him? Now, if Verso dodges that, that's information. If Verso answers it, it's information. If Verso gets so dodgy about answers to these questions that it facilitates a lack of trust in him shepherding you toward the paintress, then that's good info. If Verso lies, there's not a lot you can do about that. I mean, he could say he's nobody to me. He was just a fellow expeditioner. And then, yeah, I mean, you're deciding at that point whether you're putting your trust in somebody that you've only known for 2 seconds, which is a bit of a gambit. But ultimately, you inquire. What are we going to see when we get down there? I mean, this is all the stuff I went over last episode. Like, everybody here is like, what's happening? And so much of this is stuff that we could have known. Or some of it is. I mean, I realize there's maybe some of this that maybe Verso couldn't answer, but the very fact that Verso was able to get us to Old Lumiere, that he shows up at the mansion, that Renoir says, oh, you're trying to do this shit again, huh? Means that there is information here we could have gotten a priori. And again, if Verso dodged it, that is feedback. That is information that you can do something with. So I am so much less interested in the fact that Renoir is Verso's dad. And here's why. Because the gut reaction that I think a lot of people have is, well, if Renoir is Verso's dad, then Verso's compromised. Not necessarily. They've been around for a long time. If they have the type of relationship where Verso has, let's say, cut Renoir off and doesn't really care about him and doesn't engage with him in any kind of meaningful way, both externally and internally, the fact that he's dad, a dad is just a label in the same way that if we looked at Renoir and said, you know, he's old, like or whatever, like it's not a consequential label unless Verso tells you it is, unless Verso's behavior changes. Now, when we said in the last episode, when Verso showed up here with Mael and she said, this looks like home, and then he did the whole, are you okay thing twice, I'm guessing this is what was going on for him, is this is home. Maybe, I don't know, I'm assuming it is. This is the mansion I grew up in Old Lumiere, and Daddy's there, and I don't really want to see him. Again, very good information for us to have. And if Verso withholds that information because he's worried about what the group's reaction to knowing that information is going to be, that is all the more reason to disclose the information. It is not your job to be the sender and anticipatory receiver of important information when there's time to be shared. This is what causes so many issues in human systems. is communication failures, people doing too much, people taking accountability for things they're not supposed to take accountability for, all this stuff. So this is a shit show because of poor planning. Not because of the information we just got about Renoir being Verso's dad. We're going to find out whether that matters. We're going to find out whether that compromises Verso or not. But as of right now, that is less relevant to me than the lack of preparedness of the group. Luna's like, we just did some reading, and that's how we found out? Just ask him the damn question.
Family is not my favorite topic. Right, can we talk about this later? I'd really like for you all to survive this.
You forced us into this.
I'll use your fire. Good stuff.
She won't
Ready to
help
pounce.
you this time. I'm not angry, just disappointed.
Oh, I almost had the last one. God
A
damn it.
storm is coming.
Cut him down.
Let's spill some ink. On fire. Start up.
Tearing this family apart.
Precise strike.
You should be fighting by my side.
My turn. No time to lose.
I'll do it. A storm is coming.
Well, now we know. Okay.
Danger!
Mitre.
Time to hit big. This will hurt.
Let the ink flow.
Bring it on. Mitre.
I can't tell if that's a gradient attack or a normal attack.
You can't escape.
Watch out, Mael.
Normal.
A storm is coming.
Cut him down. Time to end this.
Aya!
Chroma is flowing.
On fire.
Bring it on.
It's stupid little hop.
Maximum damage.
Strike!
I'm gonna be very interested to know if this actually kills him. I'm guessing it doesn't.
Everyone all right? Lurker?
No, come on.
Locos. Broken.
Why can't you accept who you are?
What is that? Will you tell me your name?
Where did it go? No, 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 no. Alicia.
Fuck!
So if you're like, hey, Dr. Mick, what do you got? I don't have much. The game's being intentionally obtuse right now. So there's just not really much for me to go. I'm sure we're going to get some stuff here, but like, I don't have anything for you. The only thing I have are questions, and they're questions that are probably the same questions that like y'all are asking. But at this point, I really wish we could see the walk back to camp, because unless everybody just walked back in complete silence, I would love to know how those conversations were going.
Oh, Dory. Thank you, mon ami.
Care to explain? Your father.
I don't think of him as my father anymore.
That is so important. That is so important that it warrants me pausing before we even get Luna's. That is exactly what I was talking about. If we have to be careful not to engage with like our own ideas of what it means to have a relationship with a person that would be called father. Because if Verso really is in a space where he's like, I don't think of him as my father anymore, not my dad, that matters more than anything anybody at the camp believes about his relationship with his father. If I had a megaphone, I would yell that. And I am really passionate about this because it is way too often that people take their own attitudes about what certain dynamics are or are supposed to be, and they heave that onto experiences and examples of things that don't follow that. So one of the most common examples I ever see as a therapist is, especially when you're in school, is there's this sentiment that cutting people off is always bad. That it's in like immature way of handling relationships, that blood is thicker than water. I hate that saying. All this shit. That like you make more excuses for blood than you do for others, and blah 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 blah. No, people do work in their own subjective experiences to determine the meaning of what relationships are for them. So as soon as Verso says, he's not my dad, don't think of him that way. That is it. That's it. You could inquire about that. You can ask him about his journey to getting there. But that's it. You don't get to decide that it matters more because it's his father if he tells you it doesn't. Unless he has very specific actions that show otherwise. Now, do I believe that it would have been nice for Verso to say that? Sure. Do I also think that the camp could have asked? Yes. I mean, all of this comes down to, again, this is a failure on multiple levels to communicate. I'm putting the blame on the system here because yes, Verso could have said, by the way, Renoir is a person that at one time I considered to be my father, but I don't consider it anymore. And it really isn't any more than that. And I can happy to explain to you why that's the case. He could have said that. They also could have said, who is Renoir to you? Is he, because we notice you haven't been killed. It seems like a lot of other people from your expedition aren't around. Seems like you've got some kind of rapport with him, as we saw when Gustav died. What is that about? You can inquire about all of this stuff. So this is when, I got multiple people in my therapy room and I have to untangle this nasty ball of yarn. This is how these balls of yarn get made, man. But the point I want to make here, really, truly, is you decide what the nature of the relationships to you are. If you decide not to have a relationship with a parent or a sibling or a cousin or whatever, and you do the work to reconcile that in whatever way you need to in order to move you to a space where that person is no different to you than anybody else, which you can get there on, then great. Nobody gets to take that away from you. Could it be possible that these kinds of lessons could be lost in time with older generations leaving every year? Could be, sure. But I care less about the context they're in, and I care more about illustrating concepts for real life.
Bill, why didn't you just tell us?
Fair question.
Because it's private. And it's painful and it's none of your business.
Now, that is not necessarily true either. Because why this matters outside, he can say, I don't have a relationship with him. But him being Renoir's son matters for Renoir. And so if we're going in a direction where we are likely to run into Renoir because we're going to Old Lumiere, where there's a chance that his mansion's going to be, that information is relevant to the group for that reason. And so him to be sort of defensive around why didn't you tell us, I think using the answer it's not relevant to you is not actually a good answer. So because it is relevant in I realize I'm somewhat contradicting myself here because I said Renoir being his dad is not relevant when we found that information out. But if I was to modify what I said earlier a little bit, I would say that it matters insofar as it may matter to Renoir, which may change his behavior toward the group because of Verso being his son. So if you were, in the comments and you were making that point before you got to this point, yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I will own up to, now that I'm thinking about it even more in depth and not processing shit tons of information, I actually do think it's relevant insofar as that's the case. He doesn't mean anything to me. It's not going to change my behavior towards all of you, but here's what might happen because he's my father. Would be good info. He doesn't have to talk about his personal feelings or any of that. I mean, but again, insofar as this would affect the group, you don't get to drag people into something with information that would help them and withhold that information and then be defensive about not sharing that information that possibly could have been relevant to the safety of the group. So, you know, this is so the complications of this are wild. But it matters in that regard. His defensiveness here likely is not so much about them. It's likely about whatever's going on for him, and they're not his therapists, so their job is to ask questions that are going to give them information that's relevant to them. Getting deep down into his psyche is, we'll see what happens here. I'm not going to speculate too much, or I'm going to get lost in the weeds.
I cut ties with him decades ago.
Lying by omission is still lying.
I've told you everything you need to know.
I'd rather make that determination for myself.
I think we can all understand where each other's coming from, right? He hasn't steered us wrong yet. But we're a team now. And we won't get very far if we don't trust each other.
So, here's CL, once again, stepping in, feeling out everybody else. I'd be curious to know if her attempts to try to empathize with everybody and neutralize these engagements comes from a space of her own discomfort with arguments, rather than a desire for these things to be constructed or constructive. Might be both. This is nitpicky. I'm going to pre-qualify this by saying I'm nitpicking here, but I actually don't think CL is helping here. One of the... so... I'm going to try not to go too far on a tangent here, but when I was a professor, there's a phenomenon that I would try to talk to my students and supervisees about as early as possible so they were aware of it, that early on therapists will often try to talk a lot in sessions. When they see some sort of conflict arise, they will often jump in, they'll try to disrupt it. Anything that they see that they deem to be unhealthy, they'll often just, unless they freeze because they don't know what they're doing, they'll jump in and try to be helpful. And one of the things that you learn the longer you are a therapist is shut the hell up. Sometimes you are more helpful to a situation if you let it play out a little bit. Verso and Lune might need to fight here. Like, we might need to see that, even if it's raw and not super constructive, they may need to get this out. Lune may need to bash him a little bit and be like, yo, you son of a bitch, like, we needed this information because blah, 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 and you didn't give it to us. You omitted it. It was obviously important. I don't care if you cut him out. You got us roped into your bullshit. And if you knew that we were going to get there and run into Renoir and that he was not killable, you compromised us. And I don't appreciate that. And then he needs to come back and be like, well, it's none of your business and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, yes, it is. And whatever. I'm not really interested in who's right because CL is correct. They both are coming from a space that they can find footing on. They can each find ways to empathize with their own experience. It's why they're arguing in the way that they are. So the idea here is that arguing is not always bad. Because sometimes people have to just get it out. They have to show that this matters. The most poisonous thing to a relationship from a communication standpoint in an intimate relationship is apathy. I'm not saying that you scream and yell all the time. That's not good. But apathy is the worst. If everybody's sitting here just going, I don't give a shit, we're screwed. So the fact that Lune and Verso are willing to engage that way means they care. It means there's a level of passion there about where they're coming from, and there's information to be gleaned there. So Ciel stepping in, I don't think it's bad that she stepped in. I think she steps in too early here. She's disrupting something that could actually be very constructive. And that's why I say I wonder if some of her intervention here is out of her own sense of discomfort about what's happening in front of her. Because if she is doing it for that reason, then it's more about her than it is about the constructiveness of the engagement. I would have liked to see them fight a little bit longer. Lune can hold her own. So can he.
Family's complicated.
Old friend, you've traveled miles, spinning in circles, your blind eyes on the dial, stripping off.
The stories say that Gestrels reincarnate. Is that true? Can you bring Noko back?
Partially. We can bring Noko back to life. But not all of Noko will return. It will be a different Noko. The one you knew is gone.
I'm so very sorry, my friend. And all for naught. The painter's heart was in that manor, and now it's gone. We have no way to access the monolith.
Expedition 58 seemed to think you knew another way.
What?
We found 58 and their journals.
So that's how you... I wasn't hiding it. If that's what you're implying. It's a dead end.
Wait, what are you talking about?
There is someone else who can help us.
So I've been, all right. I don't know. Some of you care about when I say this stuff, so I'll share it. So I have been throughout this playthrough mostly praising of the way in which things in this game are represented. It's given me a shitload of stuff to talk about, and I'm really grateful for that. And that is not null by what I'm about to say. But I am struggling with / frustrated by the last 2 episodes. Because I, as a content creator that does what I do, I struggle when games are clearly written to be intentionally obtuse for the purpose of keeping you like intrigued and wanting to know more so that you keep unfolding the story. It makes it difficult because like I find myself being in a space of being hugely critical of the way that things are going down because it starts to not make sense. The only way that you start to make sense of these things is by saying how this was written is intentionally obtuse. That there's like a meta being painted here, no pun intended, where you're supposed to not know what's going on, and the human interactions within it get massively stymied as a result of it. Where people start making decisions interpersonally that don't track, at least from my perspective, because of the way they're being used as a device to move things forward. So I'm having to kind of parse my way through frustration around that right now in a way that I haven't had to do through a big chunk of the game. Because, like, yes, the death of Noko is not something that I want to just, roll over. It's a bummer that he died. And the grief of that absolutely is something for the camp to process. But how this cutscene gives us so little information because the characters don't seem willing to go there, to where CL interjects one time and just says, hey, we just need to be able to trust each other. And all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, okay. And then Lune's like, yo, we read up on you and we know things about you that you haven't shared. And he's like, well, I wasn't withholding it. If that's what you think, it's just useless. But we don't know what it is. And there's nobody inquiring about it. Where we could have a wonderful, we could have a great communication session right here. Where everybody goes, hey, we just got wrapped up in an utter shit show because we didn't have information. So can we sit down and get that information? Because we need to learn from what we as a system just did. Somebody got killed and we got a lot of information at really bad moments. And I don't want that to happen again. And I realize that that is much more complicated to create in a video game. So again, the purpose of my playthroughs is to take these moments and try to make things helpful so that you can take them in your real life and engage with them. I care less about the gamosphere that we're in. And I realize that game construction is a part of what I'm always going to be dealing with in games, and that having those conversations maybe leads to a lot of intrigue going away. You don't have carrots that you're constantly chasing. But it's frustrating from an analytics perspective, because if you're sitting here going, I want more from you around this, Dr. Mick, I have to in some ways say I don't have anything for you because this isn't going the way that I would ever expect it to go or want it to go. Like, the only thing that I can really say here is this is exactly why communication, direct, open, clear, curious, is so deeply important, especially if you're a system that's going to navigate adversity and has the ability to plan for it. Like, yes, we're going through it, but also we have the ability to get back to a camp. We have these intermittent periods where we can have these little come-togethers and talk about stuff and engage with each other and build relationships. Use that. You avoid using that in your life because of whatever discomfort you have around it. You're potentially making things worse in the long run. You're intentionally or not or inadvertently obtusifying your relationships, and that will catch up with you. So anyway, I just wanted to name that because I can feel myself being frustrated, and maybe as a viewer you can feel that, and I want to sort of talk you through why that's coming out right now. Because like at this point, give me something. Like this is why I stopped watching Lost halfway through season 3. All the way back when I was binging it in 2008. Like, I stopped watching it because the show just became so intentionally obtuse that it was like, give me something here. Like, now this is not making sense. No, it's not going to lead to me stopping playing the game. So, those of you that keep commenting like, are you going to stop playing the game? I hope you finish it. I'm going to finish the game, but I'm just naming my experience right now.
Excuse me. Is it true? Can you make a weapon that can pierce the barrier? Do you need something from the Axons?
Axon.
Do you need Their hearts.
Look, to create this weapon, he needs enormous amounts of pure chroma, which is way beyond what we can get from Nevrons. The only source are Axons, yes. But like I said, that's a dead end. It's impossible.
Why? What are Axons?
They're massive creatures living on islands around the monolith. They're much stronger and much more dangerous than Nevrons. I can't die, and I still couldn't take them down.
Yet we found the corpse of one in old Lumiere, so it's possible.
I don't know how that one died. But I'm telling you, listen to me, please. Our chances of taking them down without you lot dying are close to zero.
Close, but not zero. Death is coming either way. And as expeditioners, if we die fighting.
Wonderful pep talk.
I know.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, this is tough. Interestingly enough, we were actually just talking about this as part of for those of you who watch this me exclusively on YouTube, if you don't know this, when I stream, we usually chat for like an hour before I start playing, and I take questions, talk about whatever chat brings to me. And we actually, prior to this video, no joke, had a conversation about people who are averse to listening to people in positions of like authority and education who know what they're talking about more than you do, and how there's a general aversion right now to people listening to folks who know things more than they do because of some sense that they become in touch with a sense of incompetence around that. And there's anti-intellectualism and stuff that spawns from that. I'm not going to go too far into that, but this is kind of an example of that, but it's one that has a bit of a modifier that I'll try to articulate myself around. But Verso has been around the block. Verso has been to the school of hard knocks around this stuff. Verso has information. I love Mael asking questions about Axons. I love the idea that we try to get as much information as we can from him. He also seems to be pretty freaking passionate about the fact that he knows that this is a almost 0% chance of working. And Lune seems to have no interest in that part of the conversation. Now, I'm not saying that she should just wither and die in front of Verso and go, okay, well, then we won't do anything. That is not what I am suggesting. But I am a bit frustrated that Lune is essentially holding on to hope and the protocol and this idea that, like, even if the odds are completely stacked against us, we die this way and we're going to make calls for the group. And I don't care what you say, person who's been around the block around this, we're going to go do it. Because I happened to find a book that I read about it. This is the opportunity for some really significant collaboration. This is a moment where you inquire about Verso's lived experience around this stuff in a non-attacking manner. This is where you, after you get information from him about that, you look at him and go, okay, so I understand that the chances are next to zero. I'm not saying they were immediately going to jump into this, but if we were going to do this, what would be the best way to prepare for that? Is there any flexibility for us to figure that out? That is much more constructive. I think if Verso has had experiences he needs to share with them, he should share them. I don't think he should withhold this information. I don't think he needs to just say, I told you so. I also think that, like, he can engage with the idea of, I don't have any alternative. So legitimately, if we don't do that, and Lune goes, okay, well, if we listen to you and we don't do that, then what's the alternative? What else can we do? Then they problem solve it. And if Verso says, look, as far as I'm concerned, there's no other way to do it, which is why I'm just sitting here in purgatory because I have no idea what else our options are, that's fine. He can say that. And then the group can take a vote or decide. What do we want to do here? Do we want to go take the 1% chance that we get this and we can say we died trying? Or what? But this again, in sort of tuning into what's being said in chat right now, this is part of the problem of how poor communication compounds itself. Because yes, I agree that I don't think Lune trusts Verso completely at this point because she sees him as being withholding. Even if he says he wasn't. I don't know what the truth is there. I don't really care. But yeah. So now, because we have not done well as a group communicating, our attempts to communicate aren't going well because now we have this front of a lack of trust. These things break down. This is why it is so deeply important in your relationships to set the tone early on good, healthy patterns of communication. This is why if you are still single and you want to date, you should engage in dating as close to authentically as possible instead of putting on a front. Because if you put on a front and communicate in ways that are not actually the way that are in alignment with who you are setting yourself up to have to walk things back, and you're going to have a really complicated whole series of events that happen. This is also why families struggle, because families sometimes set really bad tones with communication, and then that becomes the norm, and then everything compounds itself. So we had an opportunity when Verso showed up to really set a nice tone with communication and trust, and we didn't do it, and now we're paying the consequence on this. So this is a complicated thing, because if it really hinges on if there actually are no other options. Also, how nobody has asked.
All right, if
This is it's just another frustration. How nobody has yet asked, hey, what is that? He's here, he makes weapons, he doesn't talk to us, he's chill, but what is he? We've run into some of them on the field. One of them was in the manor before the door shut. What are those things? Why is nobody asking that question?
If we're going to fight the Axons, then let's be smart about it.
What do you mean?
I've had a few rough encounters with the Axons. There are 3 located on islands around the monolith, and we need at least 2 hearts to get enough chroma. One lives on a mountain too high for us to reach, so that one's out. We should start with the one to the west of the monolith. It's already been weakened by previous expeditions, right?
Yeah, good idea. Maximize our chances.
Or we embrace the challenge and pick the one in the east.
I like your spirit.
Thank you.
Did you listen to what I just said?
God. This is the kind. Oh man, I don't want to make this sound bigger than. Okay, but in. Communication in the context of a system, in the context of adversity, developing healthy, thoughtful communication that I've been talking about wanting to achieve. I want you to just bring it in. right now. Okay? All of that is very hard work. It is not easy. It is why I have an entire profession that I have dedicated my life to engaging in, because it's really hard. And something that frustrate people ask me all the time, Dr. Mick, what are your like pet peeves as a therapist about stuff? One of the things that is a pet peeve that is now very salient in my mind is the misrepresentation of how hard you have to work to get this stuff figured out. Video games, movies, TV shows, books even, although books you have a little more flexibility, will often just bypass that work with a couple little convenient pieces of dialogue, and all of a sudden everything's fine. And what that does is it sort of does two things. One, it makes people question whether they're good communicators when communication is hard, and two, it makes people believe that getting through conflict is supposed to be as easy as like saying one thing or doing one thing, and it's not. So my face there is how we get from Verso being like, absolutely not. I don't want you to die. It's a next to 0% chance it's going to work. We've tried it before. It's a dead end. We have to figure something else out. Blah, blah, blah. To, all right, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to go west because one of them's injured. Oh, haha, I like your spirit about going to the east. Because what? Lune said, well, we got to do something, and if we're going to die, that's how we're going to... none of the hard work of what it would take to get the group to be in that spot that they are now in is shown. And I get it. You're not going to show all of it in a piece of media like this, but like, what? I really genuinely hope I'm not the only person who was jarred by that, because like how we get there, I mean, what does Mael think about that? What does CL think about it? What does Minoko think? Minoko's been along for the ride on this stuff. Like, we gotta hash this out. We gotta have the passion. We have to have the ignorance. We have to have the information. Like, and again, this is another one of those instances where you have all of this dynamic plus the intent, like the intentional obtusification of this, that like makes this so jarring to move through. Like, there's such an opportunity to really have some harsh, meaty conflict, which actually for the player I think would be kind of cool, because you would have to sit in the tension of who are you with? If Verso makes a ridiculously compelling argument about why this is such a terrible idea, I think as like kind of a observer of and engager with the expedition, I want to feel that. I want to feel his argument be cogent enough that I'm like, whoa, shit, maybe this isn't a good idea. And then I want to hear Lune. And I want to go, yeah, actually, I can kind of get behind that too, because we got to do something. And then I want to sit here and go, God, I don't know what I would do. And I want to see them hash that out. I want to feel the tension of that. But it's like immediately busted up because, you know, a very legitimate, probably needs to happen fight between Lune and Verso doesn't happen because CL cuts in and goes, guys, we all just need to trust each other, and we don't get to see the work there. There's a legitimate argument about whether the alternative way of trying to get to the heart of the paintress, and we still don't even understand what happens when we kill the heart of the paintress. Like, we still have not gotten enough information that I would be like, yeah, dude, let's go put our lives on the line on a next to 0% chance because this is so deeply important to do, because we don't even have that information. So it's just so hard for me to like immerse myself in this right now because of how it's just like up here. It's a real pet peeve of mine. And the reason I care so much about it, again, just to reiterate, is because it leads people to having not this game, the entire body of media that people engage in throughout their years is that it misrepresents the hard work of interpersonal communication and relationship building. It's the type of thing that leads people, and I'm not trying to crush people who ask this question. I understand why people ask these questions, but it leads people to ask questions like, hey, what's the thing I have to do to get my attachment secure? It's like, it's not one thing. It's not like, say this and all of a sudden you'll be securely attached. It's a monumental amount of work in an interpersonal relationship that can sustain the type of dynamics that are necessary to facilitate secure attachment from whatever type of attachment you might currently have. Like, it's so much work. And these are the types of things of why people believe that. Like, why didn't I just say the right thing to neutralize all the conflict that's happening in my life or my family or whatever? It's like, because that's not how it works. This is not how this works. And if it does, I'm put in a position where I have to ask a million questions about, well, how did we get there? How did that happen? How did you guys just get on the same page so easily? I really want to know. So, I don't know. I realize I'm sort of having to lean into the meta of what my content is right now, but I do think it's an important conversation. And it's the type of thing that, you know, I have such a deep appreciation for how many things we've been able to talk about as a result of what this game has brought for us. And that's not lost on me. And I'm sure there will be more. But I'm like, this is where the creation of the vehicle really, it illustrates things I don't anticipate being illustrated because it's so deeply kind of cut off at the knees. So, man.
All these years and you've never defeated an Axon?
They're kind of tough.
And do you think our chances are close to zero?
I didn't think you cared about odds.
Lune and I have less than a year. But Mael's different. Story time?
Let me think.
Come on. You've been alive for over 60 years. You must have tons of stories.
I need a topic. I can't just spit out stories on command.
I gave you a topic. Dark and personal.
All right. Let me think. Okay, I'm going to share something deeply personal with you.
Oh, I'm so intrigued.
It's about my hair.
Your hair? That's a bit literal on the dark and personal.
Hey, I'm sharing a heartfelt secret here. Do you want the story or not?
Please, do share.
Sometime after the fracture, my hair turned completely white, like an old man. Luckily, the Gestural Village has a hairstylist quite skilled in color treatments.
Lucky.
but he's always napping when I get there, and his apprentice always mucks things up. I'm lucky my hair's not purple this time.
Purple could be fun.
So, your turn.
This could actually go. So here's the beauty of this. This can go in one of two directions. This can go in a direction of like, this is surface level bullshit, and why the hell are we talking about it? But also, this actually might be more personal than what initially meets the eye. After the fracture, my hair turned white, and I am so strongly compelled against that I go to a gestural village and take a risk to dye my hair black. So if you are a person who struggles with like social anxiety, or you don't know how to engage people when they tell you stories, I have 3 questions right there that you can ask if you just pay attention to what's being said. First one is, your hair turned white at the fracture. What was that like? Second one is, what is it that compelled you to go dye your hair black? That seems to me that it would not be particularly important given all the stuff that you were going through, so why would you go do that? And the third question is, your hair was white. The same color white as Renoir and whoever that woman is that was in the mansion? Is that something that may have happened to them too? And do you have any idea what it means? I know that's not where this is going to go when I press A. But those are questions that actually open up how personal of a story this really is. So, you know, could he go there on the offset? Sure. But CL is the type of person who tends to engage people on deeper curiosities like that. And if you just listen to what he says, and you think about what he says as being reflective of a certain process and experience he went through, and you connect it with the context that you're in, boom, you've got questions that can actually take you there. And then you see how he responds.
That was hardly dark or personal.
CL, you got caught in the trap.
White hair? Old man, I'm revealing myself here.
All you've revealed is that you're vain and that you're really bad at making appointments.
Nope. You can choose to take that perspective on this if you want. Or you can go a little bit lower and say, I asked him to share something deep and personal, and he shared something about his hair. Maybe there's something there that I can engage with. Not that you have to just constantly pry. But if you're going to take that, like, that's not a satisfactory answer to me. That's making it about CL and what her expectation is about the engagement, and not about Verso, the thing that she's supposedly curious about. And the fact that he reiterated himself there means there's something there. And I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, but if you're CL here, if what you want is deep and personal, then ask some goddamn questions instead of making a judgment about the answer he gave you. You're shooting yourself in the foot. And then you're going to complain about the fact that he's not being deep. You're not facilitating any level of depth via your questioning. You just hit him with a massive amount of judgment on something that may actually lead to a road you didn't know you were going to go down.
Vain? Hey, I'm not the one with all the bracelets and rings.
Yeah, and now here we are.
Actually, my students made these bracelets for me to remember them by.
Yeah, and now she gets to spitefully throw dirt in his face about how she can share something deep and personal about her bracelets because he didn't, and now we're in a pissing match that's not particularly useful.
Because chances are we'll never see each other again.
Not necessarily.
I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. My youngest student is 6. Her parents will Gommage when she's 12, and she herself won't live past 21.
It would be wild to know that.
Her parents did the maths. They'll have 12 years as a family, and she'll experience 21 years of life.
Man, what it would... that brings us back to the whole philosophical underpinnings of this entire game, which is, what would you do if you knew when the people in your life you cared about were gonna die and when you were gonna die? Like, obviously barring like a motorcycle accident, you're gonna Gommage at 21. Like, what would you do if you knew that? How would that change your decision making around your life? Would you spend your life trying to prevent that? Would you just embrace it? Would you go wild? Like, what would you do? I mean, that is a really trippy thing. Because people will say sometimes, like, oh, I'd love to know when I would die. I mean, but do you actually want to know? How all-consuming would that be for you if you knew? How would it change your behaviors if you knew versus the fact that you don't know? The reality is none of us know exactly when we're going to die unless we take it into our own hands. Right? Like, it's really, that whole thing is really a fascinating thing. And anybody who's ever been in a position where a doctor told them, you know, you have some sort of like chronic illness or something and you have X amount of time to live, that's about as close as anybody gets to that. And other than like, you know, some really extreme cases where like you're in a torture chamber, somebody says I'm going to kill you in 3 days or something like that. Like, I'm not. But you're in a society where literally everybody can calculate to the year when they're going to die, to the day when they're going to die. What does that mean? Death becomes a core feature of life. It's just really, I mean, that stuff is so interesting.
These are the choices we get to make. The earlier you have children, the more time you get to share with them, the more life they'll get to live.
Yeah, I mean, right. Wild. And is it ethical to have a child in this circumstance? More at 3.
And every year you wait,
You're shortening your child's life.
precisely.
You don't have any children, though.
No, I don't, but I have my students. One of my friends, Sophie, said it best. She said she loves her children so much, the best thing she could do for them is not to have them. See? Dark and personal.
Yeah, you've set the bar high.
Come back with a better story next time.
Though Verso's story was rather lacking, Sayel appreciates Verso slightly more than before. She could have... Verso could have opened up more. Again, it's a chicken and egg thing. Could Verso have said more about why his story was personal to him? Yes. Could Ciel have asked more questions rather than engaging with judgment? Yes. If they both get into a pissing match about which one should have done what, nothing happens. If they both take it upon themselves to try to do better in the next engagement, that's what you want. All right. That's going to be it for me. I've had my fill this evening. I will be back for more with the camp when we get to part 17. I know I said a lot of things and went all around the world in this episode. I hope that it was I try not to let my frustrations contaminate things, which is why I wanted to name all of it. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, follow the links, all that fun stuff. This is a great series. I'm looking forward to continuing it, but don't post spoilers, though. For God's sake, I don't know how many times I have to say this. By the way, in the competition between Twitch and YouTube on who's doing a worse job with spoilers, YouTube is currently losing. Y'all are being way worse than Twitch chat. So stop. All right. Thank you very much, my friends, for watching it. I appreciate your engagement. I'm glad you're here. I hope you check out my other playthroughs. If you're binging this, I will see you in the next episode. If you're waiting for the next one to come out, I'll get it out as soon as I can. Appreciate you immensely. You matter. I will see you on the next one.